this Monday morning. It's February 3rd. Thanks for joining us here on ARC Rochester. I'm Abby Fridman.
And I'm Dan Schrack. Meteorologist Mark McLean is this morning. He's already wreaking havoc on this show.
Is that what you were looking at?
Yeah, he's sitting over in his little corner of the world laughing. We'll get to you in a minute, Mark McLean. Getting ready to dance all night long, and it's all for a good cause. We're going to be looking ahead to this year's Teddy Dance for Love and the cause it benefits.
Yeah, and then later the 67th Grammy Awards in the books. We'll be joined by a local music manager who was at the show last night to get a recap of some of the highlights.
Before all of that, we'll start things out this morning with a check of the forecast. Mark McLean not so patiently waiting for his turn to talk this morning. How's it going, Mark?
It's going good. It's a nice mild start out there, right? Temperatures are in the 30s already, actually at a level that would be normal for a high temperature for this time of the year, 33 in Rochester. So that is an awfully mild start for this time of the year. 35 in York, 35 in Dansville, and those numbers are set to increase a little bit more. Now, the morning stays dry. Here's where things start to change a little bit for us today. We start to see some rain showers late this afternoon. As it gets colder late this evening and overnight tonight, we'll actually start to transition over to a little bit of wet snow, too. So a lot of this will fall while you're sleeping tonight, but it is not going to be a big deal. It looks like a coating to an inch of snow for many spots. But before that happens, again, temps in the low 40s. There's the shower chance increasing for the late afternoon, and the extended forecast for us does get a little windy on Tuesday as that northwest flow takes over. Mostly cloudy for Wednesday. Looks pretty quiet. A little bit of a light mix there Thursday, low 40s. Some morning snow on Friday, and unsettled into the weekend. We're going to have to talk more about the weekend later this week. A storm system kind of tracks right over the...
A little less than desirable there.
Yeah.
Those teens.
Not great,
Mark. It's not like today. You know, yesterday morning it was 1.
Okay.
This is true. But
it's a win.
Yeah.
Sure. Although we were asleep for it.
Yes.
During the work week, we're out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out and about during the overnight hours.
Out in it. So tomorrow morning you'll need the snow brush for the old car. No doubt about that. But a little windy there Tuesday as well. You know, some of those gusts 30, 40. So a little bit of a change of pace from today.
Do better, McLean.
Do
better.
Turn it around.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, we've got a poll of the day this morning.
We certainly do. It's centered around the weather. We want to know, Abigail, how do you enjoy on planning today's little warm-up? The options?
Take the workout outdoors.
Ooh.
Open a window or two. Break out the shorts, or it's still too cold for me.
How do you feel?
I'll definitely go for a walk today, and I'm probably going to open a few windows.
Okay.
Just to get the stale air out.
Yes, I'm all about opening those windows, getting that fresh air in. You know, feels like it breathes new life into the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, I do too.
We want you to weigh in on this poll, no matter how you feel. Scan that QR code with your smartphone. It'll take you over to our X social media page. You can weigh in, share this poll, comment below the poll. We'll go over all of those results coming up at the end of the next hour.
But we're going to turn now to some of the top stories that we're following closely this Monday morning, filling you in on what you need to know off the top.
We're going to start things out with some this Monday morning. From the grocery store to the gas pump, just about everywhere you could see prices on the rise and fast.
Yeah, it comes as President Trump signed a sweeping executive order imposing new tariffs on some of America's biggest trade partners.
Yeah, those tariffs will go into effect tomorrow. They target Mexico, Canada, and China. Now, the executive order will see items from Mexico and Canada taxed by 25% and Chinese-made goods at 10%.
In response, China says it will file a legal case against the U.S. at the World Trade Organization. Meantime, Canadian and Mexican leaders say they will impose retaliatory tariffs against the U.S.
This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago.
They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want.
So last year, the U.S. imported $97 billion worth of oil and gas from Canada and more than $46 billion of agricultural products, including fresh vegetables and even beer from Mexico. President Trump has also threatened tariffs against the European Union.
It will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union...
United States and the U.S. start the trade war, then the one laughing on the side is China. We are very interlinked. We need America, and America needs us as well. The tariffs increase costs. They are not good for the jobs, not good for the customers either. That is clear.
Now, experts believe it could be just weeks or months before Americans start to feel the impact on their wallet. President Trump, though, says he does plan to speak with leaders of both Canada and Mexico later today.
Yeah, and coming up later in our 9 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by the chairman of Brighton Securities, George Convoy, to talk more about the tariffs and what it could mean for your wallet.
Yeah, another story we want to talk about this morning, a bit closer to home, the debate over cell phones in classrooms.
Yeah, New York State's top education official is pushing back on Governor Hochul's proposal to ban them in classrooms.
Yeah, that $13.5 million plan, which the governor outlined during her 2026 budget address, would help schools buy pouches and cubbies to hold students' phones while they're in school.
Betty Rosa, the commissioner of the state education department, says she would rather have districts come up with the plans themselves.
We believe that this is local control. People have been doing, to your point, for a while. And I do believe that the governor's office initially started in one place, and those changes have been adjusted to be at the local control.
If approved, the governor's plan would go into effect for the 2025-26 academic year.
8:09 this morning. These are stories that we will, of course, continue to follow for you and bring you all of the latest developments, both on air and online, 13wham.com and foxrochester.com.
Yep, we are going to switch gears now because all through the month of February, 13 Wham will be celebrating Black History Month by sharing with you each day the contributions and advancements in our community.
Attorney in the 7th Judicial District of New York, which covers Rochester and the Finger Lakes region.
Very cool. You can keep up with our Black History highlights online at 13wham.com.
And coming up later in our 9 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by our own Lowell Rose, who's going to take a closer look at 2 local restaurants that played a
Fun Arc Rochester. When we come back, we're going to check in with Chris Lopez, who's taking a look at some unique Valentine's Day gift ideas.
Hey, and don't forget, as we head to break or you head for the door, take us with you. We're streaming live right now on the 13 Wham YouTube channel. Arc Rochester is back after this. Valentine's Day is sneaking up on us, Abigail, not too far away. And if you're in the market for some unique gifts, then look no further. Chris Lopez is out and about to help.
Yeah, a classic gift is, of course, roses. But if you're looking for something a little more unique, a unique kind of rose that serves a dual purpose, then look no further. We'll go to Chris Lopez live this morning at Mark's studio in Fairport, learning about these really incredible roses. We're taking a look at them right here. And Chris, it's all for a good cause, too.
Yeah, you got it right on the head, Abby. Right, good for going to a good cause right here. The colored version, you have the coppered version, all goes to the VOC, and you can purchase those online at the eFlag store, or you can head to the flag store and just look at one of these, purchase one of these. These are awesome. Who knows? Purchase a bouquet, and they go to things like job site training, financial assistance, veterans counseling, mental health counseling, a ton of good stuff that the VOC does. And these roses, the money goes, the 100% of the benefit goes to the VOC. I'm here with the master of it all. This is Mark. He is the creator of these roses, creator of the idea. But to get one of these, you know, there's a lot of hard work that goes into this. Very labor intensive. I know it may be very easy for you, but for someone like me, well, I'm gonna try my hand at it in a little bit. Not so easy. We're at the finishing stages right now. What are you gonna be doing?
Well, you saw me shape this real quick. Now I'm just gonna join it together. This is a cleaner. And I choose to solder these just because I can weld, believe me. But this is more of a user-friendly way to do it. The only way I can figure out how to do this at the art shows out in public. I mean, I didn't want to burn anybody's tent down or anything.
And you make hundreds of these, the same process in and out and in and out, and you've been doing this now for decades. How long now does it take you to make a rose? Would you say, roughly?
One?
Yeah, just one rose.
A couple minutes.
Couple minutes. When you first started and you were doing it by hand, pretty much taking this, cutting it out, forming this, and then putting it into something like this. How long did it take you by hand to do it without the laser technology?
Fair amount more.
Yeah.
And yeah, my my longevity was really limited. I mean, it does wear my hands out. There's only so many times you can squeeze this before, you can't do it anymore.
And I want to try my hand at it over here. You were coaching me probably about, what, an hour ago on how to make one of these.
It's going to be great.
Okay.
You can do it.
I'm not good at making anything. I'm not good at arts and crafts. I'm going to make one of these copper roses. All right, where do we start at? Here. Remember this. I'm going to cup it like this.
Whenever somebody tells me that, I don't believe it.
Really?
Yeah.
No?
No. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
One.
I'm already off to a bad start. I'm going to push these down here, these petals. Down this way, right?
Yep.
And then push these up.
Bring it up.
Okay.
Kind of looks like an iris. And now we're going to grab in there.
Grab in here.
Like so, and turn inwards.
Boom. Okay. Is this relaxing for you at all, or is it just kind of...
It is. It's a little stressful when you put yourself out there in the public and tell the whole world you're going to make hundreds of these in a limited amount of time. But no, it's pretty therapeutic.
And I'm going to bring these petals up here.
Yep. These up here.
Okay. Bring the side petals up this way, right?
Mm-hmm. Remember, you're live on TV, no stress, man.
I know. Not too stressful right now. Okay. And then curve these in.
Yep.
Right? Here. How am I doing?
You're doing great.
Are the imperfections welcomed in these because they're handmade? I often look at bowls that are handmade and they have little divots in them, and that makes it a little more special.
Yeah, and remember, a rose is a rose is a rose. That's just it.
Just whatever you get it's beautiful no matter what.
Each one's different. It's kind of like people. you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I've talked about my, you know, my reason behind this and my dad's service. And, you know, one thing that I find a great deal of pleasure in is, you know, it reminds me of him and his message. And that's just pretty much what, you know, I'm putting out there.
Okay.
You gotta do your,
I gotta put this back down. I feel like we're gonna need another hit to do this again. Thank God we have an 8:30. It just in case I don't finish this, which I don't believe I will be finishing this.
You can do it, man.
And then so I have this down here.
Bring to. Yep, you're all ready. Now these you're gonna bend. Support it with your hand.
And out.
Bend tight.
Ugh. All right.
Oh, believe
Bend
me,
it out.
these paws get a little bit
Bend it
tired, man. You can do it. It's only one. You're doing it. All right.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna send this back to you guys in studio. I'll check back in with you in about 30 minutes or so. We're gonna get the hang of this. Back to you guys.
Put some muscle into it, Chris.
You've got it, Chris. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. And you know what?
Huh.
Like Mark said, every single one is special in its own different way. It's still a rose.
Just like you, Chris.
You got some.
Thanks, Chris. Time right now is 8:20. Much more to get to here on Arc Rochester. When we come back, we're going behind the story.
We are, and we're back after this.
(8:21), welcome back. We're going behind the story now, bringing you some of the latest information on the top headlines that we're following.
Yeah, we want to turn now to the very close together.
Yeah, Stephanie Joseph has been following the story for us this morning. She's live in the newsroom. Steph, let's get an update.
Yeah, good morning, guys. We do know that those crashes, one of which, the one that happened mid-air over D.C. water, happened on Wednesday, and then the other happened on Friday. That was in Philadelphia during the evening hours, during a very busy time in that area.
Yeah, truly devastating, Steph, that we saw both of these together. What can you tell us about them each individually? We know we covered that American Airlines one extensively, but that one that happened on Friday, truly devastating, that one involving a Learjet.
Yes, that is for sure. I'll get to that one in a moment. I do want to begin with the American Airlines and Black Hawk helicopter crash that happened. We do have an update that we got actually over the weekend, a tragic one nonetheless, but at least 55 of the victims from that crash have been positively identified. That's according to the DC. 67 people involved, 64 of which were on that American Airlines plane. 4 of them were crew members, and then we had the 3 individuals that were on the Black Hawk helicopter, and those individuals have since been identified. Staff Sergeant Ryan Austin O'Hara, there's Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd, as well as Captain Rebecca M. Lobach, that were also on that Black Hawk helicopter, and more victims, of course, that we are learning about from the American Airlines crash. As for what happened on Friday, again, it was a busy time in Philadelphia, this area. It was around 6, just after 6 on Friday, and that Learjet was carrying 6 people, 2 of whom, one included a child, as well as their mother. That child had just gotten care at a local hospital and was returning home to Mexico with her mother when this crash had happened. And then those 4 members were also they also died. We do know that 22 people were injured, 5 of whom had still been in the hospital on Sunday. 3 of them were in critical condition, and 1 person also that was on the ground in their car had died.
It really is just heartbreaking, and you see what's been left behind. Steph, I'm wondering, for both of these investigations, what are the next steps? I imagine recovery efforts continuing today with those individuals in the Potomac, but what else do we know?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right that there is going to be a lot of work starting over the next few days on the Potomac River. That is going to start with getting the remnants of the regional jet. And then after that, that's expected to take about 3 days, a couple days to do that. They're going to then focus on recovering the Black Hawk helicopter. We do know that both of the black boxes have also been recovered. So, of course, that'll be a part of the NTSB's investigation into this, a preliminary report that we're hoping to get in the next 30 days. You can kind of see here, and what had happened yesterday is that families had actually gone to the site, visited the site of this tragedy. And then, of course, we do know that there is another investigation now going on for this other crash that happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that growing memorial there along the Potomac, and the devastation of a pediatric care patient losing her young life in that second crash. Really difficult. Steph, thank you so much. Appreciate it this morning.
Time right now is 8:25. We still have a lot to get to coming up on ARC Rochester.
We're back right after this. 6:28. Thanks for sticking with us this Monday morning. I'm Dan Schrack.
I'm Abby Ferdman. We still have a lot to get to coming up in the next hour and a half, but we're going to turn now to talk about a very special event that's happening in our community.
We certainly are. This Friday, get those dancing shoes ready to bust a move because the Teddy Dance for Love is returning to St. John Fisher University, and it's all to raise money for an amazing local cause.
Yeah, for more on the dance marathon and how to take part, we're joined now by Grace Trimboli and Victoria Howard. Good morning to you both. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
This is, for both of you, the third year that you're participating in this, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you're pros at this point, but for somebody sitting at home who doesn't know what the event is, this marathon, give us a little overview, if you don't mind.
So the Teddy Dance for Love is a 24-hour dance marathon where we raise money for Camp Good Days and Special Times, which is a camp for kids affected by cancer and families. So our 24-hour dance marathon, we raise money all night long to get a common goal to raise money for the kids.
So as Abby mentioned, this is both of your third year doing this. After your first year, why did you go back? Why did you say, I gotta do it again? And then say, I gotta do it again?
So I actually went to the last part of the dance my freshman year, and I just walked in. There was something radiating in the gym, and it was like the sense of community, the sense of love. So I had to join the second I walked into that gym.
And for you?
It was just an amazing experience to see everybody all there for the common goal of raising money for these kids, and being able to see the kids when they come to the dance is just an awesome experience, and I just knew it was something that I wanted to keep coming back to every year.
Oh, absolutely. So we were just showing video of it, wondering if we can pull that up, but paint us a picture. What does the gymnasium look like? You know, what's the vibe? It lasts for how long?
Yeah, it's pretty rowdy in there. Everyone's always up. You got people running in circles. We actually have a spirit team that helping hand, more energy, but it's also very colorful in there since we have a bunch of theme colors going on. But yeah, it's definitely a big sense of love in the gym.
Now, are you allowed to take breaks? Like if your feet start to hurt, can you sit down and change your shoes?
We heavily suggest that people bring multiple pairs of shoes. We do have like little areas that people can take breaks. People also volunteer, like help register people to help get the raffles going. So we have a bunch of other stuff going on, so you don't have to be dancing the full time, but we want you to. So.
Is there like a dance floor area? Like this is the designated dancing spot?
Oh yeah.
Or is it like the whole area?
We have a big floor. We have a DJ who kind of takes over with all of his strobe lights and everything. So there's a big dancing area, and there's like fun activities on the side. Like this year we have a mechanical bowl to match our theme.
Nice.
Yeah. And we have some camp games that the campers like to play, like Gaga Ball and 9 Square. So when they get to come, they also get to feel like they're at camp with all of us.
Now, let me ask, when you show up there, are there people who clearly put in some effort and have rehearsed choreography that you could, you say, listen, I know you're a professional out there on the floor compared to somebody like me who'd just be, you know, moving and shaking every limb.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that because we actually do a line dance every year. So the committee learns a line dance that this year I had the opportunity to come up with. It's like 16 beats, and so we all actually do dance the same dance choreographed every few hours at the dance.
That is so
Very
cool.
nice.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like a ton of fun. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys come back year after year, but tell us about the amazing work that it is going to do, all of the money that you raise.
Yeah, so all of the money we raise is thanks a lot to our committee, also to our community. I feel like if we didn't have the community outreach that we have, this event would not be possible. And then also to everyone at camp who helps us along the way. Yeah, our event would not be possible without a bunch of people. So.
For someone sitting at home who wants to get involved in some way, shape, or form, they want to make a donation, they want to sponsor a dancer, they want to, you know, just get involved because they know how great this cause is. How do they do that?
Yes, so they can go to our website, teddy.sjf.edu. They can donate to our fundraising page. There's also, every committee member has their own page, so if you wanted to sponsor somebody, you can donate to their page specifically. We also do a live stream for the full 24 hours, so they can tune into that at any point and see what we're up to. And obviously, we always encourage everybody in the community to show up and just take a look at what's going on throughout those 24 hours, especially when the kids come at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So any way that they want to get involved, we will gladly accept anyone from the community.
Pull it up on that live stream and take part from the living room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Yes.
We appreciate it. If you're interested in helping out, we'll put all the information you need over on foxrochester.com.
8:33 this Monday morning. Stick around. We've got a lot more to come right here on Arc Rochester, including when we come back. We are once again checking in with our pal, Chris Lopez.
And don't forget, take us on the go wherever you are. Stream us live on the 13 Wham YouTube channel. We're back after this. Valentine's Day is just a handful of days away, and those bouquets of roses are important to get your hands on for your special someone.
They certainly are, but there's a special kind of rose that's handcrafted in Fairport. It'll really wow your loved ones, and it also supports a great cause. 13 Wham's Chris Lopez is live at Mark's studio to find more about these unique roses. Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
Hey, good morning. Not too bad. We're gonna try and pull a continuation from the last segment, and I'm gonna try and finish out the project that I started. However good that may turn out, we will find out. I'm trying to get something similar to these bad boys right here. And you know what's great about these roses? They don't die. These are for a forever rose here. Beautiful day one, as they will be forever, essentially. And I'm gonna try and accomplish something like this here, either the colored one, in my case the coppered one here, both for sale. $35 for the copper, $40 for the colored rose. You can get them at the eflagstore.com or head over to the flag store in the South Wedge. All go into a great cause, and we're going to try and finish this out. All right, we're almost going to have a race at this point. He's going to smoke me on this one, and I'm just going to try and accomplish one here. All right, ready? Let's go. where I left off wasn't great. How are you doing over there? Not too bad? You nervous to go against me on this?
I don't know, man. You got some big guns going on over there.
Big guns that are useless. You make how many, roughly, would you say, each year?
Me and my friends, 4 or 5, we're well over 500 this year.
And we were talking a little bit, because 100% of the proceeds go to the VOC, and so many programs they have on the job site training, to electrician work, construction work, financial literacy classes. But you were talking about something really important. You were talking about the veteran that slips through the cracks. Can you elaborate upon that?
Well, you know, like roses, I mean, veterans and people are people. They're all different. They have different circumstances. So, you know, the whole Veterans Aid thing and all of that, I mean, you know, they're doing what they can, but guys do slip through the cracks. And, you know, fact of the matter is it's not, a lot of people think of it in a negative fashion, you know, that these guys are having trouble. Well, what I'm trying to do is put a bit of a spin on it, you know, like my dad, his circumstance is, what if you give one of these guys a hand up and imagine let him go and see what happens? I mean, you know, my dad changed thousands of lives in his time, and these guys could too, but, you know, game changed right there.
They just need that push right there, and you're helping so much with thousands of dollars that you... I think I'm done, right? Am I done? No? Yeah? You don't?
I'll give you a pass on that.
Yeah? Okay, check it out. We're going to solderize this now, right?
Okay.
And that's you. One of about 600. What would you rate this on a 1 to 10?
I haven't looked at it yet. I'll give you the critique in a minute.
And the idea, when did the idea start doing this?
Well, many years ago, I've been giving back in one way or the other to many different causes and organizations, food pantries and whatnot. But this one's solely for the vets, and I've been doing it since the early 90s, I'm not sure, the late 90s. But at the end of the day, it's just I can take virtually nothing and turn it into something. And so, you know, in the last handful of years, it's gone from mild or, I don't know, small to a giant thing. I never had any idea that it would grow like this.
Look at that right there. That's not too bad, right? It's not too bad.
I'm going to give you an A+. Let's just, yep, I'm giving them an A+. What do you think, guys?
You guys can purchase a rose similar to that, like I said, at the eflagstore.com, or head over to the Stars and Stripes store or the Flag store in the South Wedge. They have, look at this. The colored one, I gotta say, Mark, this is definitely my favorite right here. I know it's traditional, I know it's a little bit cliche, but these are so awesome right here. $40 for these bad boys right here. $35 for these, and they go to benefit the VOC, which helps so many veterans in the area. I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio. Thank you for hosting us this morning. You're doing a lot of great work out there.
Chris, yours actually looks really good. Hold it up for the camera again. That looks really nice.
I think it's this one, right?
Careful.
Here we go. Not too bad. A little bit of coaching in there.
That looks pretty great.
Good.
Good work, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Good work.
Thank you.
A+ from us, too.
Yes.
Time right now, 8:42. Much more to get to here on ARC Rochester when we come back. This week's Health in a Handbasket.
We are back on the other side of the break.
7:25, welcome back. Time for our Monday morning health in a handbasket. And today we're talking about some foods that support an anti-inflammatory diet.
We like that. For more, we're joined now by registered dietitian and nutritionist. You know who she is, Alyssa Strassman. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. This looks delicious.
Yeah.
We're talking about how hungry we already are, and then you set this up, so you got to leave half of it. But
Yeah. So before I start, I have to say this is a special segment because this is actually a follower's request.
Really?
So
Ooh.
someone had shared that they had interest in this. And I know when we think about the word diet, we often think of something that's maybe strict, rigid, follows many rules, and that is the complete opposite of what an anti-inflammatory diet is. Basically, an anti-inflammatory diet is an eating style that helps to support our body's response to inflammation or reducing our risk for non-communicable diseases, things like heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, even our mental health. We think about Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, all of these things kind of work in synergy. So it's an eating style that incorporates foods and nutrients that help to support us in keeping ourselves well and preventing things from occurring to us in the future.
I think anytime someone uses the word diet, you think of the things you can't have rather than the things you should or can have.
Yeah. One of the things is similar guidelines as to what the USDA dietary guidelines put out for us. So similar to the guidelines here, some things that we may want to incorporate are whole grains. So things like oatmeal, barley. Can you think of some other whole grains that we might find in our eating style?
I think like whole wheat tortillas.
Yeah.
With the oatmeal, question. Rolled oats? Is that okay?
All whole grain.
All whole grain?
All of them are whole grain.
Good.
Some other things we may want to incorporate are fruits and vegetables in lots of different colors. All of those different colors represent different phytonutrients and different phytochemicals, those things that help to keep us in staying well. So remember when we talk about tasting the rainbow, we love that slogan. That's the same thing that we want to do with our fruits and vegetables.
And I like that you also have dried fruit on here too.
Yep. That's the other thing to make note of is that all forms count, whether it's fresh, frozen, freeze-dried, or canned, all forms count as fruits or vegetables. Some other things that we may want to consider including are some healthy fats. So we think about monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, things that are found in our olive oil, nuts, seeds, chia seeds, our nut butters, things like that, and omega-3s. So we find omega-3s in our fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel. We also find it in chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts. Fermented foods is another thing. So we think about our gut health and promoting a healthy digestive system. We think about yogurt, pickles, olives in brine, kimchi, all of these
sauerkraut.
things. Yep, all of those things are fermented foods that can help support. And then we think about things that help to make our food turmeric, rosemary, basil, garlic. All of those things are things that not only allow our foods to taste good, but they also support our health. Table, dark chocolate and green and black tea are also things that can help support us as well.
So like you said, when you think about diets, you're thinking, oh, I can't have this, I shouldn't have this, but there are so many things that you can have when you really put it into perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I just want to point out is other lifestyle things that we can do to support inflammation in our body. And so that includes getting movement in, reducing our stress. So finding ways that we can manage our stress are things that we can do to support our health, as well as getting adequate and sufficient high quality sleep.
One thing I just want to ask, and I know that we're avoiding the topic of foods that you cannot eat, but when it comes to foods that would inflame your body, what are some of those things?
Yeah, so for some people, they have allergies. And so if someone has celiac disease, for instance, if they had wheat or something with gluten in it, that might cause an inflammatory response for them. Whereas someone else who does not have that allergy, they may not have that same issue. So if we do have chronic conditions, and make sure that you're working collaboratively as a team. Some other things where we're looking at some associations is like high fat meats. a lot of added sugars in it, like in excess added sugars, and just highly processed foods. However, we look at more abundant. What can I add to make my eating style just more abundant?
And when you talk about reducing stress, I mean, I think it's a lot of fun to go home with a bunch of new ingredients like this. Like you said, the more colorful, the better. And you can zone out in the kitchen for a little bit and make something for dinner. And, you know, don't follow a recipe, just do it.
Yeah, well, also there's a lot of things that make life convenient too. And I think more and more we're seeing at grocery stores, you know, when we think about processed foods, like sometimes, you know, buying a mirepoix mix at the grocery store is something that makes our life more convenient and also allows us to have foods that are fresh.
Yeah, very true. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for the helpful advice.
Yeah.
And the socials before we leave.
Yep, you can hit me at Facebook, Alyssa Strassman, RDN CDN, or you can visit my website, alyssastrassman.com.
Perfect. Thank you again. Did you bring that dark chocolate? Because we're going to need some of it.
I did.
Okay, good, good. Hey, stick around. We've got a lot more to get to right here on ARC Rochester as we continue into the 9 o'clock hour.
We're back after this.
Good Monday morning. I'm Stephanie Joseph. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here's your ARC Rochester news break. It's been just over a month since body-worn camera footage was released showing the events leading up to Robert Brooks's death inside Marcy Correctional Facility. The video, released by the State Attorney General's office, shows the 43-year-old Rochester native being beaten by several officers. He was taken to the hospital and died the next day. Brooks's father, Robert Ricks, says watching that footage and reliving his son's death has been excruciating. The incident has sparked outrage among the community and has renewed calls for legislative reform.
I didn't choose this fight. I believe that this fight chose me. And I'm ready to fight for justice for my son, but also changing some of the rules and regulations and laws and things that make it possible for things like this to happen.
So far, 17 people have either been suspended without pay or have resigned in connection to the case. Tomorrow, Robert Ricks will speak at a community forum at East High School, an event hosted by Rochester's Police Accountability Board titled How Many More? A call for change, action, and accountability. The forum has already drawn criticism from the Rochester Police Locust Club, which released a statement taking aim at the PAB, the union accusing the board of misplacing focus, saying in part, quote, no member of the Rochester Police Department had anything to do with Mr. Brooks's death, which is an undisputed fact that seems of no concern to the PAB and its leadership. A man is in critical condition following a crash yesterday afternoon in Phelps. Deputies say 61-year-old Patrick Mayer of Geneva hit a utility pole on County Road 23. Mayer is in critical but stable condition. The road was shut down for several hours while crews removed wires from the road and replaced the pole. Rochester police have identified the man shot and killed last week while driving on the city's north side. Investigators say 22-year-old Jabriel Henderson was behind the wheel Thursday night around 7:30 when he pulled over on Ellison Street off. Henderson was found in the driver's seat and rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. No suspects are in custody. Anyone with information should call 911 or the Crime Stoppers tip line. You see that number on your screen, 423-9300. 4 teens are now facing charges after a crash on Lyle Avenue that damaged multiple cars at a dealership. Officials say the group tried to recklessly pass a car on Lyle Avenue but crashed at Sherman Street. All 4 were transported to the hospital with what we're told are non-life-threatening injuries. The car was reported stolen, and all 4 are facing charges of unauthorized use of a vehicle. Now, for all of these top stories and any updates, be sure to visit 13wham.com. Stick around. Arc Rochester is back right after this.
This Monday morning. Thanks so much.
Still ahead, we're going to be talking about how we can make ourselves the priority in life. We like this. We're going to be joined by our teen mental health advocate to talk about the importance of self-care and how to implement more of it in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and then later we'll be going over the results for our poll of the day. This morning we asked you, since we're going to plan on enjoying it. Tell us more in the comments below. The options: an outdoor workout, open up a few windows, break out the shorts, or it is still too cold.
I say we take our wins where we can get them. Scan that QR code with your smartphone. As Abigail said, weigh in on this poll. We'll go over those results for you coming up at the end of the hour. And hey, speaking of the forecast, we're joined right now by meteorologist Mark McLean. We are talking about that warm up. We're going to experience temperatures in the 40. I'm taking the lawn furniture, putting it in the backyard, going to get a little bit of a tan today.
Oh, boy.
I can't wait.
Yeah, that's an elevated level of warmth right there when you start doing that kind of stuff.
Yes,
right?
it is. So I've got high hopes.
You know, if you don't take the stuff in, you don't ever have to put it back out.
Yeah, but you got to clear the snow off of it.
It'll melt.
Right, because 40 this time of the year, you know, if you put 40 back in September, I mean, we'd be shivering.
Torture.
It would be. It would be. You'd have the heat on in the car, the whole bit. But you have a look at, this is an interesting illustration. We're coming off the warmest year on record for Rochester. We had in 2024, 52.6 degrees was by far, and of course, all things considered, records go back to the 1870s. You know, who knows what happened 2,000, 10,000 years ago, but at least in our record keeping, we haven't had a year like that. So when you look at numbers like this, we came off a cold January that was 3 degrees colder than normal, but that 33 in Rochester is actually the equivalent to a normal high temperature for this time of the year. So the question that you had, how long does it go? Well, we get to the 40s today. Some of those showers and wet snow showers start to knock us backwards over the next few days. But look, you know, we pop back up into the low 40s again by Thursday, and it's just kind of a roller coaster up and down as we go through the rest of the week.
It's like a little reminder that better days are coming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and this is historically the peak of the cold. So this week right here, February 9th, 1934 would have been the coldest day in the history of the city.
Whoa.
It was -22.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, that was the actual air temperature, right? Lake Ontario that year was almost 100% ice covered. You know, when you put relative comparisons here. And I do have one more illustration. You know, this is the 10-year anniversary of the coldest month in the history of Rochester. So check this out. You know, just 10 years ago, what were you doing in 2015? Were you in Western New York?
Yes.
Yeah. So you probably were, you know, maybe you don't remember this. Maybe you tried to block it out of your mind. But 12.2 degrees. We only had 5 hours that entire month where the air temperature went above freezing.
What?
For the whole month. 5
For the
hours.
month of February, there were 5 hours above freezing?
Yeah, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon through about 6 o'clock that evening.
Wow.
We went above the freezing point of water.
That is insane.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we had all sorts of stories. I can remember doing stories. We had roof damage, gutter, soffits get frozen in, and water dams, ice jams. People were having problems with the drywall and the roof. Because all this water backing into the house from it freezing up, and you couldn't warm up. I mean, there were some nights. I think we were below zero. It was between 5 and 10 times that month. Yeah, that the actual air temperature was below zero. Yep.
I'm trying to remember 2015.
Where were you? Right?
I was in the Western New York area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Buffalo working at a station that Abigail worked at the after the fact. I do remember that. I remember being very cold that year.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't remember summer of 2015. I do remember the beginning of 2015.
And it really was like a calendar month joke. I mean, everybody would stop back and everyone's like, when are we going to warm up? And we were looking at the long range data, and we knew we weren't going to warm up.
Yeah.
It was really hard to, kind of lift people's spirits.
How many angry calls did you get to the weather center?
Oh, people get irritated.
Yep.
Yep. Especially when it drags on. And the month of March, at least for me, the month of March is always the most difficult because the month of March is just another winter month.
Yeah.
It is, especially the first half of it. And when that pattern broke finally, I think it was the middle of March, and Lake Ontario had like 94% ice coverage. I mean, that's
crazy.
For that deep of a lake to have that kind of ice coverage. That was really something.
The turnaround point for me is St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Look forward to it every year. It is a sign that things are turning around.
Yes.
And things are getting good again.
It's the unofficial death of winter.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what it is.
Like that.
And then we stomp on its grave come June 21st.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
Certainly looking forward to that. But as we learned this past weekend, 6 more weeks of, not that this little rodent really has any say in anything.
I had a tweet out. I said it's 6 more weeks of winter. Unless you live in Western New York, then it's 8 more.
Well, that's fair, though.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But, again, all things considered, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
We can do that.
That's it. We're 60% of the way through the snow season right now. And
which is glorious.
We're about half, calendar winter. We're about halfway through at this point too. So, we'll start to see those normals go back up after next week. Yep.
Okay.
Slowly.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
we
Mark.
appreciate most of it.
We do. Time right now is 9:07. We still have a lot to get to coming up on Arc Rochester, including when we come back, a recap of last night's Grammy Awards.
Stick around. We're back after this. And don't forget, if you're heading for the door right now, you can take us with you. We are streaming live on the 13 Wham YouTube channel. We're back after this.
The biggest night of music was last night, and some historic awards were given out at the Grammys.
They really were. Rochester-based music manager and journalist Bruce Pilato was there last night. We're checking in with him this morning, as we do every year from Los Angeles. This year, he's reporting on a show that had a slightly different mood. Bruce, thank you so much for waking up with us. Talk to us about last night.
Yeah, well, it was really strange because we didn't even know if there was going to be a Grammys with the fires and everything else. And at first everybody said, no, they're going to cancel it. But fortunately, the fires were all out about 3 or 4 days ago. And that's all I was going to come in for anyways. So I caught everything. But it was a great show. I thought the music was phenomenal. But it was totally different because every moment during this 3-day window where they had other events, 2 days with a QR code that everybody was donating money. I was at events where 5 people donated $100,000 each.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean, you got to see LA. I mean, it looks like a bomb dropped.
Yeah, it's really devastating what's happened over there. Do you think that the mood was more somber at the Grammys this year, or was it more let's rebuild, let's focus on the future, there's still hope, that type of?
It was all about survival. It was all about, we're gonna get back to where we were. They opened the show with this amazing version of Randy Newman. It was a superstar band. It was like Sheryl Crow and like all these people were in it. and then the whole show was all about resilience, and we're strong and we can do this. And some of the themes were pretty similar. As I said in one of my like eight, no, maybe 6 or 7 women that got more than 3 Grammys each. Wow. And as far as the male side of it, the only one who really cleaned up was. But I have to tell you, I thought the music was great, and I thought that the shows were great. They were spectacular. Though you got to remember those set changes they do. They get like 2 minutes to change those things over, and it's like a completely different building when you're inside it. The backgrounds of the stages and everything. So
any big surprises from last night, or any wins that you thought were more well-deserved than ever before?
Well, Taylor Swift was shut out, and so was Billie Eilish. I'm not so sure that that's a big surprise, but it was interesting. I thought for sure, the Beatles with the nostalgia and everything would win, the year with Now and Then. In fact, the big rumor was that there was going to be a Beatles reunion with the 4 of them, the 2 of them on screens who aren't here anymore, and then the other 2 live on the stage, and they were going to play the song live because McCartney is doing the song in his tours right now. That never happened. That never materialized. And the other big change for me was, on being in my 60s, our generation, the boomers, very, very, very slim representation. I mean, you saw a Stevie Wonder here and there, a Diana Ross. They were just presenters, or they were just there like for the tribute to Quincy Jones. But none of the musical segments or anything had anybody. But hey, you know what? It's a young man's business. What can I tell you?
Why do you think that is? Do you think they are not interested in performing? Do you think they're like, let's have somebody else do it? I did it for years before. Or do you think it's the producers picking who they want, and they're saying, well, we want this person who's on the top 100 right now, and this person the same?
Well, I got to be honest with you. There was a big movement when Neil Portnoy was kind of pushed out of the guy who used to run the Grammys. He had made some disparaging comments about women, have to up their game and all that kind of stuff. So there was a big DEI change within the Recording Academy, and that had to do with age too. It was no longer the old white guys running the situation anymore, and I think that's been reflected in how the Academy votes now and everything else with their membership. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that I saw a big change when that happened.
I would imagine, just to kind of piggyback off of that and your response to it, they're going with the people who they know can sell stuff, so advertisers want in, right?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, that generation, for a long time, the boomers were the big money demographic. That's not the case anymore. I mean, the millennials are now the ones with the money. So I think you're going to see that. You see it in sports. You see it in everything.
Bruce, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Real quick before we go, what are your thoughts on the recipient for Album of the Year? We know that that's the big one.
Yeah, I mean, Kendrick Lamar and of course Beyonce won. What was groundbreaking about that is she's the most winning person ever in the Grammys. I think she would have won something like 4 of them or 5 of them. So, but it was great, and the vibe was really good by the end of the night, and they raised like a lot of money, and hopefully it'll help these people, because I'll tell you, I have friends in this business. I mean, people who lost all their recordings, all their memorabilia, incredible stuff, just incredible. So knock on wood, LA will get back on its feet.
Absolutely. Bruce Pilato, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay, we'll see you guys next year, I hope.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Time right now is 9:18. Much more to get to here on ARC Rochester. When we come back, we're going behind the story.
We are back after this.
2020. Once again, we're going behind the story this morning, continuing to bring you the latest information on some of the top stories we're following.
We are, and we want to turn now to some political news as USAID staffers have been instructed not to go to agency headquarters this morning.
Yeah, it all comes as Elon Musk said that President Trump has agreed to shut the U.S. Agency for International Development down.
Yeah, 13 WHAM Stephanie Joseph has been following this story for us this morning. She's in the newsroom. Steph, what can you tell us about this early morning announcement?
Yeah, so obviously it comes after a conversation reportedly between Musk and Trump. We know that Elon Musk is in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, and one of their goals is to rein in spending, or track rather spending in the U.S. government. And of course, with the recent executive orders that have come out, there's still a lot of confusion around what this agency, USAID, its future would look like.
Steph, one question I think some people at home might be wondering is, what is USAID? What does this agency do?
Yeah, so it had been around for quite some time, decades even. It's an organization that oversees humanitarian development, also security programs in about 120 countries. It had been established in 1961 under President John F. Kennedy's administration, considered what would be the humanitarian arm of the U.S. government. So it is in charge of dispensing billions to many people across the country, or across the world rather, to alleviate poverty, treat diseases, and other disasters.
So the question remains, though, what led to this? Why are we telling staffers not to show up? Why? What is the plan moving forward if we're shutting this agency down? But has there been any announcement of that?
There's not been any official word, but there has been a lot that has happened in recent days, even weeks, that have sort of about what he believes about this agency and the fact that it does not need to exist. And so one of the things being, over the weekend, we had heard that 2 top security chiefs had been placed on leave. That comes after there were some people, a part of Musk's office, so the Department of Government Efficiency, that physically tried to access the USAID headquarters in D.C. and had been stopped. And they were looking to access a bunch of different information, classified information. And so in response to that, we do know that those 2 top security chiefs had been placed on leave. There's also the 60 senior USAID staff that had also been on leave after that recent executive order that had put a pause on those foreign aid.
Steph, what's next here? I'm sure a lot of people are getting ready for work today and are very confused when they were told that they don't have to report.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question here. What does the future of the agency look like? Right now, we don't have any official word from the White House or President Trump as to what is going to happen next. We do know that in the immediate future that those staffers were asked not to come into agency headquarters, and we do know that a bunch of people, dozens, have been placed on leave following that executive order.
All interesting, though, that Musk can kind of call this sort of shot when we know that DOGE is not an actual government agency. It has no legal authority, no regulatory powers. So interesting that
the other side of the aisle, for example, Democratic lawmakers have said that Trump himself lacks constitutional authority to shut down this agency. So a lot of people sort of coming in to defend, because we do know that Congress has the quote unquote power of the purse, for example, that are kind of on the fence about what's going on here.
All right.
Steph, we appreciate the report. Thank you.
Hey, stick around. We've got a lot more to come right here on ARC Rochester this morning.
We're back after this.
Monday morning. Thanks for sticking with us here on ARC Rochester. I'm Dan Schrack.
I'm Abby Fridman. We still have a lot to come here this morning, but we're going to talk more about some developing financial news.
We certainly are. From the grocery store to the gas pump, just about everywhere could see prices on the rise and fast.
Yeah, it comes as President Trump signed a sweeping executive order imposing new tariffs on some of America's biggest trade partners.
For more, we're joined this morning by George Conboy, the chairman of Brighton Securities. George, thank you so much for taking the call with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Abby.
So let's dive right into this. We're talking about tariffs on U.S. and Mexico of 25% and on Chinese goods at 10%. How quickly start to see the impacts of this?
As quickly as the manufacturers, importers, and retailers view your newscast, I would think, Dan. Generally happens pretty quickly. It's not a case of, I have these goods on my shelf, and when new goods come to my shelf, I'll mark them up to reflect new prices. Retailers know these prices are in the pipeline, and they'll happen pretty quickly.
So an example of some of the price hikes that we could see, we just talked a little bit about it earlier in the show, but fruits and vegetables, gasoline, what are some of the other things that people will definitely notice?
Auto parts, that will take a little longer. You're not going to mark up the price of that Chevrolet because the fuel pump is coming from Mexico on the car being built next week. So that'll take a little bit longer. But construction materials, some of that comes from Canada. There's a whole range of goods. Some electronics come through Mexico. So it will be a fairly broad-based thing. The question is, how long will it last? That's where the jury's out.
Let me ask, what does this mean for inflation? Could this exacerbate inflation? We know President Trump kind of campaigned on reducing inflationary costs, reducing the cost at the grocery store. Are we going to see the opposite?
We come in with the two-handed economist. I think it was Harry Truman who said, please give me a one-handed economist, because we like to say that on the one hand, higher prices will tend to lead to higher inflation. On the other hand, if we end up collecting a meaningful amount of dollars in tariffs, that could mean a slightly smaller deficit, which could lead to slightly lower interest rates, which could save you money on your next car or mortgage. So the jury's out, especially if this ends up as a short-term negotiating tactic. But a trade war is a war. And in a war, you can not just have winners and losers, but you can win a battle and lose the war, or lose a battle and win the war. But when you fire that first shot, you don't know how it's going to turn out.
We heard from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau earlier in the newscast, speaking to the American people, saying how this will hurt us and how they are telling Canadians to buy local, shop local, buy Canadian products. With the threat of retaliatory tariffs, what does our companies overseas or in Canada across the border not going to want to buy products from us?
It's possible, but let's remember that Canada and Mexico combined have economies 1/7 the United States, very, very small relative to the U.S. economy. And so while anything that Canada or Mexico might do, whether it's higher tariffs or embargoes on products, things like that, anything they do could hurt us and hurt American consumers. At the same time, the amount of economic pain we could inflict in the other direction is probably worse. So nobody likes a war and nobody comes out unscathed, but we certainly have a little more horsepower going into this one than most people realize.
George, I want to go back to necessarily winning the war. Do you anticipate these price hikes will get worse the longer that this goes on? Do you imagine that we'll see things dramatically increase the longer that it's happening?
My general opinion, Abby, is that it will not go on for a long time because a trade war tends not to benefit most parties. And if we have something to lose, and Mexico does, and Canada does, and China does, while there's the cannon shot is fired today, let's say, figuratively speaking, it's likely the parties get to negotiating and come up with a settlement. So I don't see this as lasting for years and probably not months. Weeks, certain, is difficult for business, especially when it comes to the supply chain. So that's not a plus. But but I don't see it lasting a long time.
What impact is this going to have on the markets? Are we going to see some sort of decline?
Well, let me pull markets up right now. We've just opened. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down about 1%. NASDAQ is down about 1.75%. Standard & Poor's 500 down about 1.5%. So while those are unpleasant declines, they aren't that unusual in the grand scheme of financial markets. But let's remember, most Americans voted for the policies that we have in the White House now. However, I doubt very many Americans, in fact, I'm confident most Americans didn't vote for higher prices or a protracted trade war. So one way that financial markets send messages to elected officials is with markets up or markets down. And if we see the market down for any meaningful amount or period, I suspect politicians will get that message.
George Conboy, Brighton Securities. Yeah, thank you so much for offering this insight and breaking it down for the lay people so that we actually understand it. Thank you again. We appreciate it.
Now is 9:33. Stick around. When we come back, we're taking a closer look at two local restaurants that played a big role in Black history.
Hey, and don't forget, you can take us on the go with you wherever you are. We're streaming live right now on the 13 Wham YouTube channel. We're back after this.
.37, welcome back. All month long, we're highlighting Black history in Rochester and the Finger Lakes region.
Yeah, the Green Book was a well-known traveling guide for Black people during the 1930s through the 60s.
13 Wham's Lowell Rose explored the importance of the Green Book and locations listed in Rochester.
Flip through the 1955 Green Book and you'll find several.
We had everything on the street.
Places like Clarissa Street were vital for Black Americans traveling throughout the country. Candace Taylor, an author and cultural documentarian, says the Green Book was known as a lifesaver.
If you lost your prescription, you needed something on the road, there were banks in the Green Book, there were funeral homes, there were nightclubs and barbershops, so it was much more than just a travel guide.
For some, it's hard to imagine needing a guide like this, but it was dangerous to visit certain restaurants and gas stations across the country during segregation with Jim Crow laws.
In some cases, you might be escorted out of town. Other cases, you may be beaten up. If you were pulled over by the wrong sheriff, you could be detained and wrongfully withheld. But the most important thing was to get out with your life. And that's how people traveled. They traveled to stay alive.
Taylor says roughly 85% of establishments in the Green Book were Black-owned. And the book listed other places deemed safe, like Disneyland and the Waldorf Astoria.
We're mentioned prominently in this book.
Here in Rochester, George Fontenette says his family owned 2 locations in the Green Book, both on Clarissa Street.
The first place they told him to come to, it was either the Gibson Hotel, that was owned by my uncle and aunt, William and Noya Stamps, or Villat's Tavern, which is owned by my grandparents, Eunice and Bill Villat.
Clarissa Street was often the first stop for people visiting or relocating to Rochester. The street also seen as an entertainment hub with the famous Pit Dot Jazz Club.
So even if they took the train station wasn't far from Clarissa Street, they would take the train and take a bus to Clarissa Street. First thing they would ask, where do Black people live at?
Most Rochester businesses listed in the Green Book were torn down during the 1960s urban renewal. Only 2 buildings in the book remain. Dan's Tavern
for what we had on Clarissa Street.
Lowell Rose, 13 WHAM News.
And speaking of which, we're joined now by our
Yes.
very own Lowell Rose to talk more about this story. Lowell, really interesting story. And it's so interesting that so much of it takes place in the Rochester area.
Yes, that's really unique. I guess the Clarissa Street that we know today is not the same Clarissa Street. And we also hear about Black Wall Street, Tulsa. Mm-hmm. Well, Clarissa Street was basically the Black Wall Street for Rochester. So it kind of made sense that some of the locations in the Green Book were on Clarissa Street. So they were basically a safe haven. So when Blacks and African Americans were traveling across the country during Jim Crow, that was during a period where there were strict laws that kind of upheld racism and brutality against Black people. So even in the North. So they had things called sundown towns. So to avoid all of that, they went to this guide and they traveled to places like Clarissa Street, which had hotels, restaurants, and bars and things of that nature.
Do you know the origin of the guide itself? Because I'll be honest, growing up, I don't remember learning about the Green Book. This story was the first time I truly believe I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. So it's originally started in the New York City area in 1936 by Victor Green, and it originally was a 15-page magazine, and it listed all of the safe places to go in New York City, New Jersey, that area. And over the course of several years, it went to include all of the states in this country and then the cities there. And it eventually went international.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Lowell, while you were doing the research for this and while you were writing this story, I'm curious to know the piece of information you found most interesting, might also find interesting.
I would say something I learned new with this story. I've known about the Green Book for years now, but I know talking to the documentarian who helped with this piece as far as the information, I was curious to know if most of the businesses in the Green Book were Black-owned. And she told me that wasn't the case, although 85% of the establishments in this book were Black-owned. That wasn't the case, of course, the Waldorf Astoria, Disneyland. So there were some, as she said, there were some places that, of course, were owned by white people, owned by Jewish people, or people that they simply weren't racist. They were just open for business. So that was something that was really unique. And she also said that during that time, although rights and things during the Green Book. So that's something that stood out to me.
Let me ask, and I want to try and phrase this so it's clear. There was still segregation in these places that were welcoming of Black people and African American people, correct? There was still segregation. There was still a whites-only drinking fountain at Disneyland, but there was also a Blacks-only drinking fountain, correct?
More than likely, depending on where you were.
Okay.
Some establishments, they were welcoming to all. Of course, there were some establishments that it was separate but equal. This was the law of the land some 60 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe. It's a long time, but it's not really a long time. But yeah, segregation was real roughly 60 plus years ago. We're not that far removed. Our grandparents, our uncles, our aunts, they all lived through this. And again, they're still living, they're still with us, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that really puts things into perspective. Lowell, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. Are you working on any stories as we make our way through the month?
We have several stories that we're working on.
Any that you want to tease to, or are you like
I will say that our stories this week, the team that we're working with our staff, they're not centered just on Rochester. Of course, Rochester is rich with history and Black history, but we're exploring stories throughout the Finger Lakes. So in about a week or two, there's a story that's based out of Livingston County. I'll just leave it at that. I do have some colleagues, Black history fact, and it's not all things that happened 100 years ago. Some of it is recent. So, you know, on several of the newscasts throughout the day, the morning and in the evening, we'll just have just a little fact of this happened here, this person was this person was that, just to add to our coverage of Black History Month. So it's very much local that how we're taking our Black History Month coverage, that you'll see something every day, but then we'll have those special stories at least once a week.
I'm glad you've said it, because we say it quite often that we are so fortunate in this region to have such a rich history, culturally and beyond.
Absolutely.
So we look forward to those stories.
All right,
Thank you
for having me.
Time right now is 9:44. When we come back, we're talking all about the importance of self-care.
ARC Rochester is back after this.
Welcome back. We are talking mental health this Monday morning, and we're going to talk about how you need to take care of yourself. It's so important.
It is. It really, really is. It sometimes sounds like a lot of work or feels like a lot of work, but our teen mental health advocate says it doesn't have to feel like a chore. We're joined right now by Tanvi Arakapudi, back with us via Zoom. Tanvi, good morning. Thanks so much for waking up bright and early out west and chatting with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan and Abby.
Absolutely. So let's dive in, my friend. What can we start to do? What are actionable steps we can begin? Provide a little more self-care to us so that at the end of the week, we don't feel exhausted and burnt out.
Definitely. So I feel like just to start off, self-care, Valentine's Day in February is a great month to think about how we can show self-love to ourselves. And stats show that over 70% of Americans say that doing self-care boosts their happiness, their self-esteem, and their self-confidence, while only 10% do it regularly. So taking this month, second month into the year, re-evaluating our routines of self-care so far, and also understanding that it's so important to be that preventative model to mental health and physical health challenges. So by looking at science early and making sure by the strategies I'll be sharing, implementing self-care every day, even if we redefine us, and I like to say it's an investment in ourselves. But we're giving back to ourselves because we can't pour from an empty cup. Whether it's at home, it's at work, wherever else, we need to fill ourselves with love, with gratitude, with care before we can help others.
That's so true.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, Tanvi, I love that saying. Let's talk about some of the ways that you can take that 1 minute to ground yourself, center yourself, and realize, you know, I need to be a little kinder to myself.
Yeah, the first way is letting go of the shoulds. Like, I should go for a walk, or I should meditate every day for 1 hour. There's so many of these shoulds based on what we see in movies, what we see in other people's day-to-day lives, but it's so important to know self-care is how you define it. Everyone deserves self-care, everyone's capable of self-care, and all of our routines are different, even if it's just journaling before you sleep every day. Doing something simple that works best for you is really what self-care is all about. And when you're doing self-care, rather than being like, oh, I should be doing something more productive, or I don't deserve this, or I feel guilty for doing this, try to think of it as you're spending time for yourself. And that's the most important thing you can do every day.
Is there a beginner's guide to this? Because I feel like, at least for myself, I consider myself wound a little tight. And you know, letting your hair down is sometimes a bit of a chore, no?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is.
Definitely. So the first way that I would say is really helpful, especially as we're beginning to learn about self-care and doing it for ourselves, is simply complimenting either yourself in the mirror or someone beside you or just out there wherever. By saying that positive energy into the world and showing kindness, it's scientifically known to release endorphins, which are natural stress relievers. So it's so important to compliment yourself. It makes you not only see the positive in someone else, but in our day-to-day life, by doing that one compliment, we start to learn about more of the positive things and really observe the little things in life. So always complimenting whenever you're feeling down and it's the end of the day and you're like, oh, I didn't do self-care today. Just do a simple compliment, and that can really, over time, can help you build a better self of yourself.
And when you say compliments, is there like a rule for it? Should it be about character? Can it be about looks? Like, you know...
Yeah, I would say it can be about looks, character, and really try to find something specific, not just saying it to say it because you want to feel positive, but say things that really, truly stand out to you and you think it's amazing. And I would say focus on characteristics, traits, if you know that person very well, because it means a lot to them. Like, for example, if I were to say, you're really caring, that would mean a lot to the receiver, but also it shows that you're paying attention to them and you value the relationship.
Wow, so it's like a two-way street with that. Not only are you giving that to someone, you're also feeding off of it as well.
Yes, definitely. And the third strategy is actually how we can use a placebo effect and just smile. We've all heard fake it till you make it, but this is, like, for example, when we're extremely happy and really excited about something, our facial expression first goes to a smile. So if we mimic that and start by doing a smile, it actually activates the brain's reward system and makes us feel happier and calmer. I didn't believe this at first, but I tried it once when I was really stressed out and feeling so overwhelmed and anxious. And so I took a moment and I just smiled. and I did a quick 1-second smile, and I started to feel happier. The placebo effect or not, I just started to feel more excited and really let go of the worries that I couldn't control in that moment. So try to smile at the mirror, like I said, or at yourself. Whenever you want, just try to take that moment, smile, fake it even at first if you need to, but really get into the habit of doing something for yourself.
Placebo effect or not, if the result is positive, I feel like it's a win.
Exactly.
Tanvi Arakapudi, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. For somebody who do, including the board game, including the cards, including the books, give us a rundown.
Yeah, so you can check out my website at www.tanvi.us or follow me on Instagram at tanvis.inspiration. Thank you so much again for having me today.
Thank you again, Tanvi. Best of luck. We appreciate your time.
Time right now is 9:53. When we come back, our final thoughts on this Monday morning.
We're back right after this. Time for our final thoughts this Monday right here on Arc Rochester.
Let's get right to it. Our poll of the day this morning. We're going to see a slight warm up out there in the forecast today. So we asked you, how do you plan on enjoying it? The options: take the workout outdoors, open a window or two, break out the shorts, or it is still too cold for any of that.
The results?
It's still too
cold.
People.
People.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say it. Not even going to say it.
What?
No,
Just
no,
say
no.
it. Just say it.
Well, I'm just saying, the negative option is always very popular on Twitter.
I
/X.
agree. I agree 100%. Start coming up with some positive results or we're pulling the poll for good. Hey, that does it for us here on Arc Rochester this Monday morning. Make sure to wake up with us again tomorrow morning at 4:57 over on the other channel. What is it?
13 Wham ABC. That's where we'll be later today for 13 Wham News at midday. We'll see you then.
Have a good one.